question. The member for Timiskaming Cochrane.
Thank you. My question is to the Premier, and first of all, I'd like to thank the Auditor General for her work on behalf of the people of Ontario. And today she reported that the government's pre-election report is, quote, not a reasonable presentation of Ontario's finances. And that's partly because the government is using a complicated private financing scheme to keep billions of dollars of hydro debt off the government's books. Not only does this scheme waste $4 billion for no other purpose than to hide this debt, it clearly violates public accounting standards, as the government knew it would. Why is the Premier hiding the truth about what its $40 billion hydro boring scheme?
I've ruled on this. I'm not accepting it. The member will withdraw.
I withdraw.
Thank you. You may finish your question.
Why is the Premier why is the Premier involved in this $40 billion hydro scheme, which will cost the public even more money?
President of the Treasury Board.
President of the Treasury Board.
Speaker, thank you very much to the honourable member for his question. And I think it's important, Speaker, to just remind that this pre-election report really is an important opportunity for the Auditor General to give us some very important advice, Speaker. The accounting practices that the member opposite talks about have done some really important things for our economy and for ratepayers, Speaker, because this change in the ISO's accounting practice has eliminated a second set of books that was previously kept, has brought greater transparency to $17 billion worth of transactions, and furthermore is consistent with the accounting practices of IESO's predecessor, the OPA. We respectfully disagree with the Auditor General on this, Speaker. We made a significant policy decision to lower the cost of energy for Ontarians, Speaker,
Answer.
And that is the decision that will stand. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Once again to the Premier. The Premier's $40 billion hydro boring scheme does not permanently lower bills for Ontarians. Over the long run, it will add $40 billion in hydro debt and interest onto bills which will have to be repaid once again by the people who use hydro. And the government is needlessly wasting $4 billion on private financing scheme whose sole purpose is to keep that debt off the government's books. Instead of violating public sector accounting standards, why won't the Premier just tell the Ontario public the truth, that their hydro bills have not really gone down, but over the long run will skyrocket higher than ever before?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to go back to the premise of this report, Speaker, and remind the member opposite that the Auditor General actually, in issuing her report today, underscored the fact that our government has prepared our books with a degree of prudence that she underscores as being extremely important. So that's an important piece of context. You know, Speaker, when the public accounting standards, as Deloitte pointed out, are silent on the question of how to account for the impacts of rate regulation, it is appropriate for a public sector entity, and this is their opinion, Speaker, to select accounting policies that would result in the recognition of the impacts of rate regulation. This, again, Speaker, is an area of disagreement with the Auditor General. We have another area of disagreement with her as well on pensions. We are pleased to have a report today. We respect her opinion, and we again, underscore the fact that this is an act of transparency on our part to publish this pre-election report, something that Ontarians previously didn't have. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.